Some of you know that I'm a first-generation American, born to a German mother and an Argentine father. At home, my parents spoke in Spanish to each other and to me, and my grandmother, who lived with us my entire life, spoke German to everyone, even though I didn't understand a single word. My parents loved languages. My sister and I joked that if you rolled our family together, they knew as many languages as the Pope. My grandmother spoke Armenian, Russian, French, German, and Spanish. My mom spoke German, Spanish, French, and Italian. My dad speaks Spanish, Portuguese, German, Italian, and just enough French to get into trouble, he always says. Like many first-generation American children, I swore I would only speak English. I wanted nothing more than to be like all of my friends. I have a childhood memory, crystal clear, of going to the grocery store with my mom in Houston, Texas, where I grew up. As we were waiting to pay, she noticed the lady bagging our groceries and started uttering a language I had never heard her speak before. I watched as the lady's face went from sad to downright giddy as she threw her arms around my mom, squeezing her to pieces. "What happened?" I asked. I guessed she might have been from the Philippines, so I tried out a few phrases in Tagalog. "When did you learn Tagalog?" I asked, kind of baffled at the whole thing, and not even knowing that Tagalog was one of the languages spoken in the Philippines. "I'm trying to learn a few words in as many languages as my brain will hold," my mom said. I always thought my mom was a little bit nuts. This was confirmed in this moment. And as a kid, I was a little embarrassed at the whole scene in the grocery store. But memories like this one have stayed with me. Fast forward 20 years, I had just returned from serving 2 years in the Peace Corps. I was living in Moldova, a tiny country in the former Soviet Union. If you heard my speech last year, you know that this country has a very special place in my heart, and so you knew it would make a reappearance this year, so it's back. When I got back home from the Peace Corps, my mom welcomed me with a delicately wrapped gift in the obvious shape of a book. When I peeled back the floral paper, I saw an ambitious title: How to Learn Any Language. Apparently, this 200-page book held the key to learning any language in existence. It's just that simple. I have to admit, I was feeling pretty proud and confident coming back from Moldova, where I had just learned to speak Romanian fluently. I said this to my mom, hoping she would get off my back, but she gave me this look that told me she was highly unimpressed. She was pretty good at that look. She pushed the book closer to me and simply said, "You should learn them all." "Learn all of what?" I asked. "All of the languages." "In the world?" I asked. "That's right," she said plainly, without breaking a smile. "All of them." Before I could even manage a nervous giggle, I saw my mom's face drop and realized that she wasn't actually kidding. "Learn all of the languages, Julia. It's the key to happiness." She went on to explain that language is a great connector. People who are seemingly different from different planets can be connected through a common language. But her tone grew even more serious and a bit more cautious. "Language is only the first step," she said. "It opens the door, but then it's up to you to walk through it. Language is just a tool, but it's up to you to acknowledge the humanity in others." Pretty heavy stuff to process, having just gotten off a transatlantic flight after 2 years abroad, but her wise words reinforced what I saw in the grocery store checkout line 2 decades earlier: an embrace between strangers over 3 words in Tagalog. It made clear for me why I was so hooked on languages and on traveling. When I was in my early 20s and new to teaching, I decided to go to Morocco to teach English one summer. As I traveled further and further away from cities with only a backpack on my back, I found myself on an overnight camping trip in the Sahara Desert with a group of Berbers, a semi-nomadic group of people who for centuries had farmed and lived off the land and mountains in Morocco. After sundown one night, I was sitting with my Berber tour guide making tagine, or beef stew, over a small fire. It was pitch black, and you could see just about every star in the sky. I had never felt more insignificant than sitting there in the vastness of the desert, trying to communicate with a man who had never before seen an American. My French only got me so far. I didn't speak Amazigh, his native language, so I relied heavily on the only Arabic phrase I had learned, shukran, meaning thank you. He kept shoving food in front of my face, saying, "Ish, ish," which I figured out pretty quickly had to mean eat. Shukran, I said over and over again. A Frenchman on my tour helped translate the rest for me. My Berber guide had said that I was his American sister. How amazing that I spoke Arabic, he exclaimed. I'd say he was generous in characterizing my language ability that way. I literally said the only word I knew to everything that came out of his mouth. Shukran. But in that moment, I had acknowledged his humanity by speaking his language. As a Peace Corps volunteer in Moldova, I started all over again. I didn't know a lick of Romanian, so here I was, in a village of 2,000 people, living with a host family who spoke no English. My host mother, her name was Violetta, was helping me learn to wash my clothes by hand outside one morning. Our conversation was limited, as I would point to things and she would tell me how to say them in Romanian. The conversation was quite sad, actually, and a little something like this. Tree, green. Apple, red. Kind of like caveman experience. Clothes, dirty. I was making impressive progress in that moment. Then my host mother screamed, cow, free. Vaca libera, she screamed. Free cow? That doesn't make any sense at all, I thought. Until I saw her run after our cow, who had somehow managed to break free of its enclosure and was running all over the garden. Following suit in an unusually neat and tidy line were our chickens, our goats, and a donkey. We laughed to tears as we chased them down, she rattling off in Romanian, which I assumed were probably curse words, and me simply uttering vaca libera, reduced to the simple vocabulary of a toddler. But in that moment, laughter brought us together, and even today, 15 years later, we think back to that odd moment whenever we Skype or talk on the phone. In these seemingly disparate environments, the grocery store in Texas, under the desert sky in Morocco, or in a backyard garden in Moldova, I experienced the power of common language. If you've ever traveled or even spoken with a non-English speaker in our own country, you know that any attempt to speak someone else's language breaks down a critical barrier. Finding a common language gives you the tools to recognize the humanity in other people. And at the end of the day, we all just want to be recognized, valued, and cared for. So here we are at the start of a new school year, and we all speak English, so you may assume that we already share a common language. But I challenge you this year to really learn the language of your classmates and your teachers. Behind our surface commonalities lies a rich array of diverse perspectives. Language opens the door, but it's up to us to walk through. Language provides us with the tools, but it's up to us to recognize the humanity in others. As you start the year, you likely have classes with people who are totally different from you. You may sit next to someone at lunch whom you've never met. I encourage you to take a risk and find that common language. But don't stop there. Use it to acknowledge the humanity in others. You'll find that it makes Green Hills a happier place when we recognize the diversity right in our midst. With 550 students in the building, you may find it impossible to learn everyone's language, their cultural viewpoint, their perspective on the world. But why not, my mom would say. You need to learn them all. It's the key to happiness. Thank you, and have a wonderful school year.